Friday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve. We're going to wrap up a good week of shows today with our man Brent Beaird talking college football. And then we're going to shift sports. We're going to talk a little baseball with old former Gator pitcher Johnny Wiggs, who's the head baseball coach at Santa Fe College. But we're going to go straight to the Titan Tomorrow hotline. And we're joined by our good friend Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
We are celebrating the good morning to you. We always good to be with you. We're celebrating the arrival of Phil Steele on the magazine shelves this week, and also getting ready for some very important decisions coming up in the next couple of weeks with college football.
No doubt about it. Before we get to college football, Brent, I know you like sports. Major League, and it's 2020, right? So game gets canceled halfway through. Just a monsoon came in there in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a shame that happened, but yet they had the Dodgers and Giants on after that with all the cutouts in the stands, which was surreal to watch all of that. But I think people will adjust to it. Look, it's ball. That's all the people will adjust to it. Look, it's ball. That's all that matters. And for all of us Atlanta Braves fans like myself, that they get going today, so that makes it even better.
Yep. We're speaking with Brent Beaird. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Brent, you're an Alabama guy. What do you think about the Redskins' new uniforms? They're going to be called the Washington Football Team for the time being, but they got the numbers on the side of the helmet.
They have so many Alabama players on that team that they can almost be Crimson Tide too. So, but certainly one of the big jokes going on yesterday was how long did it take, Shane, for him to come up with that nickname? I know it's temporary, but people got a good laugh off that one.
No doubt about it. All right, Brent, back to college football. As you mentioned, Phil Steele, that guy puts a lot of time and effort into his magazine. I mean, he's got more stats in there that you can't even read. But his top 20 or 25, I was a little surprised at it.
Phil always has a surprise or two, doesn't he, Shane?
He does.
And the surprise, now his playoff four are basically all the same as everyone else: Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Where he differs, and I frankly, as much as I respect Phil, I don't agree with this. Texas A&M is 5 in the poll. Now Florida is 10, so they are in the top 10 with all the magazines at this point. Shane, were you surprised like I was? Miami is 12. Now they've got some real talent, but I don't think put it together for 12. Auburn a little lower at 22 with this. So, yes, as Phil is wont to do, you've always got a curveball or two, and he did not fail to disappoint this year too.
No, I mean, A&M, I think we think that, with Jimbo being there, I guess this is year 3 for him, with Kellen Mond with some experience coming back. Will they get over the hurdle? I mean, they're not a top 5 team in my opinion, right? Maybe top 10. I think Florida should be higher because of what we've done in 2 years, the players we have coming back. But I don't know what he was drinking when he had the Miami Hurricanes there. Now, he must be giving a lot of credit to Derek King, which he's a really good player. But good gracious, I don't know if he's watching the same Miami teams I've been watching. But, kudos to him. Usually he has some sleepers. Now, I haven't read his magazine yet, but he has some sleepers out there that could surprise some people. Did he have that this year?
Well, the sleepers are, yes, he always has surprise teams. And among his top 2 or 3 are the ones that we've already mentioned are Texas A&M and Miami. Those are the 2 teams that he really likes as much as anyone else. I'm intrigued to see that Memphis is 21 and Mike Norvell left enough talent there to get them over the hump for a little bit. So again, Indiana, that was in the Gator Bowl, is number 25. So I think it really tells you the job that coaching staff has done and the players that they have got back. So, and by the way, Phil Steele this year is 1995. So a little bit heftier price than it normally is, Shane.
Well, Brent, gosh, let's talk college football, the state we're in right now. Can you give us a rundown? But as of today, what is the day? Whatever, Friday, July the 24th. Okay, let's talk Pac-12. Let's talk Big Ten, ACC. Let's talk each conference, where they sit right now from a standpoint. If we play football, what's their schedule going to look like? I'm confused.
Well, and look, I sent you notes last night, and some of these things have changed since I sent you the notes last night. In other words, there was some speculation that the ACC was going to make a decision or some kind of announcement as early as today. Now, that has changed, that the ACC presidents are now scheduled to meet next Wednesday, and there won't be anything final with the scheduling model until then. The Big 12 presidents, this was interesting, could wait 2 more weeks or maybe even longer before making their decisions. I think they want to see what the Big the Big Ten's already made theirs in the Pac-12, or at least in the process. They really want to see what the SEC and the ACC are going to do. Now, if you're an SEC fan, keep this in mind. The SEC presidents and chancellors will meet virtually next Thursday. That's July the 30th. Now, this was a scheduled meeting anyway, but there's no doubt, is it, Shane, that football will be a real topic for that meeting. And then, and I'm not saying they're even coming out with a decision at that point. That will be the next important thing that they're going to be doing. Now, the Pac-12 is looking at maybe a 10+1 model. And again, these things get changed all the time. But they're looking at possibly maybe starting the season on September the 19th. With that. Now, part of the problem, and I don't know if this is going to be resurrected or not, I don't think anything's in stone yet for anything. But as you remember, Shane, part of the weeping and gnashing of teeth over what the Big Ten and the Pac-12 did in deciding to play conference-only games was the loss of Ohio State, Oregon, and Oregon, and what a game that would have been. I'm not saying that's going to be resurrected. I'll be interested if they look at maybe that again. But that's the thing that we're looking at right now is I think the main thing is we may have the schedule starting at different times, which wouldn't be a bad thing for college football fans. But right now, I think I would be very surprised if anybody's going to play full season. But I think what we're going to have is some kind of a, for instance, with the SEC, an 8+1 or an 8+2, which is your 8 conference game plus 2 non-conference games. So, Shane, if all that is up in the air and sounds pretty strange right now, that's because it is.
So I also heard, and I actually think it's a pretty good idea, although I don't know if it probably was done way back in the day. But a lot of these games with a lot of changing going from a hotel standpoint, a lot of people may not know, but the college teams fly in on a Friday night, Friday afternoon, spend the night, play the game, and fly back to campus. There's a lot of talk now where if Florida is to play in Columbia, South Carolina, they're just going to fly out the day of the game. Have you heard that as well?
Yes. Yeah. And I give our colleague Matt Hayes credit for this. He had this on Twitter a few days ago, Matt, with 1010XL here in Jacksonville. Now what he has heard is numerous ADs have told him that since they can't really control hotels and you come in overnight, you know the drill, obviously, and our listeners do too. That's great to be able to do it. It's safe to be in. You work out the bugs, and then you're able to play the game. And then some teams spend the night, and then some teams going back. But what this may very, very well mean is teams coming in the morning of the game. And again, boy, if you've got weather, that could be dicey. But see, I think it's a couple things here. I think it's one is, even though they're the credit, I'm sure these hotels are doing all the maintenance they can. But I think, Shane, a lot of this is just pure money. Is if you save some money on hotels and you basically fly in and fly out that night after the game. But what that also might mean, Matt points out, that we may have more night games. We may have a lot more night games in a situation like that. So that's something worth looking at, and frankly, it makes some sense, doesn't it?
It really does. It's all about what time is the game going to be. And again, you brought up a good point. Let's say we're scheduled to play a 7 o'clock game. Usually you like to eat your pregame. Well, then you got to figure out where you're going to eat your pregame meals. You usually eat your pregame meal 4 hours before kickoff. So you're going to have to go to some kind of venue to eat once you get into that city. But you brought up a good point. What if there's weather in Atlanta, flying to where? I mean, weather in the Southeast, you never know. But
No.
so Brent, the NCAA, if I'm not mistaken, said that if a student athlete who's on scholarship decides to not participate if we play sports, they'll still honor their scholarships, correct?
Correct. They made that decision a few days ago. At that point, that in the how it reads is SEC announces the athletes who choose not to participate because of those concerns and who are in good standing with their teams will have their scholarships honored. Presidents and chancellors approved this unanimously. And notice that clause in there, Shane, about who are in good standing with their team. So do we all know what that means? Probably not. But and I think that's something that they decided to do to cover themselves. And frankly, it's fair. And hopefully there won't be a lot of players who do this. And frankly, I don't think they will. I think these guys want to play. I think they enjoy the competition. And let's be honest, they also want to get some tape on themselves for the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brent, I've had a lot of different people on in the last couple of weeks, and I know we're talking Power 5 football here because that's what drives college football. But just me being the football fan, having coached kids who have gone to the lower levels, I'm so scared for some of these smaller mid-major programs if they don't get that chance to play in Bryant-Denny Stadium, the Swamp, wherever they're supposed to play these big SEC schools, get that paycheck. How can the teams like South Alabama, who's supposed to come to the Swamp this year, be a great experience for those kids because they dreamed of playing big-time college football? They're going to miss out on that. But how is South Alabama of the world going to survive without getting that paycheck?
I think something is going to have to be done with the schools. Now the SEC has got deep enough pockets to where I mean even as a token of good faith, Shane, I think some of these contracts will be honored. Now they may be moved to another date and given priority in order to do that, or they might be given a portion of the money that they were going to receive. That's going to be fascinating. That would be a really good athletic director question to see what fallback plans they have got in those situations. And look, I think another thing that may happen here, Shane, is the fact that we may have to adjust some of these schedules on the fly. So a South Alabama, for instance, while they may not be able to come to the Swamp, they may be able to pick up another game this season against a Power 5 opponent who's looking to play somebody who canceled 3 weeks earlier. So hopefully you will have some kind of situation come up like that too.
Where does Alabama stand with their opener? Because we know the game that was supposed to be out of Jerry's World against USC was canceled. Then there were talks about BYU and Alabama kicking the season off. Then there were talks about Notre Dame. Is Alabama still trying to get that game played?
Yes, Notre Dame is out. Greg Burns said, the athletic director, that is not going to happen. The BYU game is a real possibility. Now, what people don't know this year about BYU, maybe BYU is actually an independent. So, and Shane, that they've had like 4 games canceled already. Can you imagine that? So they are actively looking for games. So I think the Alabama game may actually work for them. And listen, we've also got, keep your eye on this, on Labor Day weekend, if some of this comes together. You've still got Georgia, Virginia, and you've got Florida State, West Virginia. So there's some big games, and there are some big games. The Peach Bowl CEO, Gary Stokan, is hoping that they're able to do something on that weekend too. But as far as Bama is concerned, BYU is very much in the picture. Nothing definite yet, but yes, that is certainly out there, and that very well may happen.
Will that just be a home game in Tuscaloosa?
And even that's undecided right now. I'm going to say probably it will be. Because it would probably be hard to get a neutral site game at this point. Although, if you got a chance to get Alabama BYU and you're a neutral site, you probably would step up and try to get that done. But yes, I would guess if that goes on, that will probably be in Tuscaloosa.
What's the latest on if we do play football? We got a lot of questions for you today, Brent. If we do play football, what's the talk on fan attendance? Is it going to be like baseball right now? Nobody there?
It's either going to probably be nobody there, or it's going to be maybe 25% of your capacity, something along that line. Because if you're and listen, Shane, I've heard either that 6 feet may not be enough. You may have to double that between people. You may be required to have masks. Now, Texas came out and said this week that we want to have 50% capacity. Now, how they do that's beyond me, frankly. But that, I mean, it'd be great if they can do it, and we can do it. But that is something right now, and I know everybody's head is spinning. I mean, the players and the coaches are doing what they need to be doing. As a matter of fact, on the 24th today, this is actually phase 2 of the NCAA's plan that starts today, which basically means that they're just able to be on the field more. They have more time with the coaches starting these next 2 or 3 weeks. But I think what's going to happen is you've got to wait until you find out if you're playing or not. When are you playing? And you decide at that point what you're going to do with your fans. And Shane, my big question has always been, how in the world do you tell a Gator fan that has had season tickets for 50 years that he's not coming to the game? So I'm just using that as an example. You could put that in any school in the country, but I think they want to play in the fall because from what I've heard and seen, Shane, these presidents and chancellors do not want to play in the spring. It's just too iffy, and that their thought process is if you put it all on the spring, there may not be a 2020 season at all, and then if you play in the spring, what in the world is that going to do for your fall 2021 season? So fall.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. July is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. You can follow him at Brent Beaird on Twitter. A few more minutes, Brent. Now, I wonder if the SEC, just NCAA football, if they've been, NASCAR has been allowing more and more fans at their races recently. I wonder what the data is from that. Have you heard of anyone getting sick going to these races?
I really haven't, and I can tell you why. Because if they had, we would have heard about it. Right. I'm not saying there hasn't been, but the reality is NASCAR's done a nice job with this, and they deserve a lot of credit. And listen, don't think for a minute. And Greg Sankey has said this almost as a passing thought, but it's very important. They're monitoring very closely what happens with Major League Baseball in the NBA and also with NASCAR, and trying to learn from what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's going to be extremely important that if the country can get some confidence from those sports, that's going to help the college football and the NFL even more.
Yeah. Brent, you got some nuggets for us. I know there's been a lot of recruiting. My good buddy, his two twins committed to Alabama, the Brockermeyer twins. I know Florida's had some success. Give us a few nuggets.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. You mentioned Alabama. They've been on fire in recruiting. They're up to number 2 in the 24/7 recruiting rankings. Terrence Ferguson is the latest guy that they got along the another big lineman that they really like. You mentioned the Brockermeyers, and you know this better than anybody. I can't tell you how disappointed Texas is with that, man. How excited Alabama is to have those guys, and they're both twins, and basically. Shane, one's like the best tackle and the other one's like the best guard or center. So, I mean, it's just amazing to think about that.
All-American. He was an All-American first-round draft in Texas with a long history of families playing there, and they decided to go to Alabama. People in Texas ain't real happy.
No, they're not, but they really do believe that if they go to Alabama, they'll be in the NFL for certain. Malik Miller, running back at Auburn, won't be returning. He had one more season to go, but he is going in the transfer portal at this point. Tank Bigsby at running back for Auburn. He comes in as a freshman. They really like him and all that he can do along that line too. I think at Georgia, Georgia actually had a decommitment, which kind of amazed me at this point. Marlon Dean, he's from Elbert County. He just reopening his commitment. Doesn't mean Georgia won't get him back at this point. Devon Wilson, Georgia defensive back. This is a bit of a surprise. He is transferring. They were really counting on him to be able to help them. Marcel Brooks, linebacker at LSU, is transferring to TCU. And that's a good player. He's going to be eligible immediately. And they do think that running back Chris Curry could be replacing Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which would be hard to do, but he could be one of the main guys they've got. Mississippi State, former All-SEC linebacker Jamar Chaney has joined the Mississippi State staff. At Tennessee, Austin Pope, who is, frankly, a pretty good tight end, has got a herniated disc in his back, saying you understand back issues in football. This is to be able to play. Had one catch in the game against Florida. Gator fans may remember that. And also Emmett Gooden, defensive lineman, has been dismissed. Jeremy Pruitt does not put up with much from players. He assaulted a woman and her boyfriend. So they showed him the door with that. And A&M, Tank Jenkins, who is a sophomore guard, has entered the transfer portal. And I know we're talking SEC, but I did want to mention Florida State's opener with Notre Dame in 2021 is going to be on Sunday night, September the 5th. 2 Mississippi State players who transferred to Florida State will be eligible immediately. Jaron Jones, who's a defensive back and defensive tackle, Fabian Lovett. And those are pretty good players too, Shane, frankly, at state. So being eligible immediately I think is going to help them a good bit too. Miami had a verbal commitment from Jabari Ishmael, defensive end. I talked to somebody real close to that program. There's a lot more optimism right now for Miami. And we just heard that from Phil Steele, didn't we, Shane? Than I've heard in quite a while. So it's going to be a very important and crucial year for them.
No doubt about it. Well, Brent, great stuff as always. Stay safe, my man. We'll talk to you soon, but really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Can't wait for the next time, pal. Take care.
All right, that's Brent Beaird from First Coast News over in Jack's part of College Sports Today. You can follow him at Brent Beaird on Twitter. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. Going to take the first time out of the program on this Friday. When we come back, we're going to be joined by the crafty lefty, Johnny Wiggs, head ball coach for the Santa Fe Saints Baseball Club. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your area rug cleaning services. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to fall. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guide, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School,
Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish,
Radware, Style Cuts, Wrap Spot, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Chris Doring Mortgage, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance,
MB Listings,
and Pomodoro Cafe. If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Back to this Friday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators come to celebrate, with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Starbucks, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point. I want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us. Now we're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by former Gator pitcher, now head baseball coach at Santa Fe College, Mr. Johnny Wiggs. Good morning, Johnny. How are you?
Morning, Shane. Thanks for having me this morning.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to a young Johnny Wiggs in Polk County growing up. Obviously baseball has been your entire life. Were you always just strictly a baseball player, or did you play at all?
No, my dad was a great athlete himself growing up and played 3 sports in Mulberry as well. And so I played them all, man. When it was football season, I was going to be Shane Matthews, even though Shane Matthews is younger than I am. When basketball season, I was going to be Larry Bird. And of course, baseball was my best sport. But I played 3 sports in high school, really loved them. I didn't play quarterback until my sophomore year. My baseball coach was the JV football coach. and said, "Hey, we got nobody else who can throw. I know you throw a baseball pretty good." So I went out, played JV quarterback. My junior year, my varsity coaches showed me how to really play quarterback, and then I got a chance to play my senior year, and we had a great time. We won 9 straight games, won the district and regional championship, and I had a pretty good athlete to throw to. Dedrick Dodge was my wide receiver who played safety at Florida State, played in the NFL for quite a few years. So when I didn't know what I was doing, I threw in his direction.
Smart quarterback. So Johnny, obviously baseball, you found when you were a senior, that's what you were going to do collegiately. You had to go the junior college route. You know, a lot of people don't really understand junior college sports. We don't have football here in the state of Florida, but it's big time in Mississippi and other states. Just talk a little bit about, you know, what made you decide to play junior college baseball?
Well, I was 5 foot nothing, weighed 100 nothing coming out of high school. I always wanted to be a Gator, and they didn't know my name. I always tell this story. When I was a sophomore in high school, I told my guidance counselor, he asked me for 3 goals when I was in 10th grade. When I was in 10th grade, Shane, I was probably 5'5", 125 pounds. And I told him I wanted to pitch for the Florida Gators. I wanted to pitch in the College World Series, and I wanted to pitch in Yankee Stadium. Fast forward 6 or 7 years, and he sent me a telegram. And when I was at a hotel, and it said, "Congratulations, you've met your first 2 goals." I was pitching in the College World Series for the Florida Gators in 1988 in Omaha, Nebraska. And so junior college was not on my list of goals, but it was a stepping stone and a way for me to get there. And that's such a great avenue for so many players today. I'm a little biased because I did it, but I'm also coaching it. I've been a junior college coach now for head coach for 22 years. And it's such a great route for guys that aren't ready academically for, say, the University of Florida, but also guys like me that physically weren't ready and really need to go prove themselves between the white lines. And that's what junior college baseball does, is give guys a chance to get between the white lines and play. A lot of times, some of our guys can get an opportunity at a 4-year school, but they don't get a chance to play. And we get a lot of Division I transfers. After a year, they see that they're not going to get a chance to play and come play for us. So it's a great avenue. It worked perfectly for me. I was able to play. I actually went to Valencia Community College in Orlando my freshman year. The coach left after my freshman year, and I made the greatest decision of my life and moved to Gainesville, came to Santa Fe, got closer to Florida. They were able to see me pitch, and it worked out perfectly for a guy who had a goal back in the 10th grade to pitch for the Gators.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that at Santa Fe, and then obviously Joe Arnold was the coach at Florida. And I want to say, and I don't know if y'all still do this, but it seems like back in your days, y'all used to have some scrimmages against the Gators, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that had a lot to do with you being able to sign with Florida?
There's no doubt. Back in the day, we got to play Florida, Florida State, USF, UCF. We played all those guys in the fall. And we played 3 or 4 times against Florida when I was at Santa Fe. And one of the times I was fortunate enough to start and pitch really well, and we beat Florida. And so I really thought that was, at least it put me on the map for them, even though, like I said, I was very little, but I showed I could pitch and spin a breaking ball for a strike and those kind of things. Had a good pickoff move. So luckily I found Florida at the right time. They were definitely in need of some pitching. And Coach Arnold was bringing in a great nucleus of junior college guys. It worked out perfectly. We had a great group, ended up winning the SEC tournament, the East Regional at Tallahassee, and then, of course, going to the College World Series, all in 1988.
Yeah, talk about your college World Series. I mean, that's as you mentioned, that was one of your goals as a youngster. I mean, that's everybody's. If you play college baseball, get to Omaha and play in the old Rosenblatt Stadium. I mean, I just remember as a youngster watching all those games, late nights. I loved it when the Texas Longhorns played. I don't know what it was about their uniforms when I was growing up, but I loved it. But just talk about that experience, Johnny, playing for the Florida Gators in Omaha.
Man, it was special. You know, I'll be honest with you, Coach Arnold was pretty honest with us, and he told us when we got there, we needed to win for him to keep his job. he knew his butt was on the line that particular year. And he says, we need to win, and we need to win big. And us junior college guys didn't know any different. We were all winners. And shoot, we came in there and we treated the SEC like it was the Mid-Florida Conference in junior college. And we, kicked butt and took some names and had a great time. And, I got to pitch against some great players. Frank Thomas was in the league, the Big Hurt. So I remember challenging Frank Thomas with a few fastballs back in the day, thinking I was something. He was a really special player. But yeah, it was a tremendous experience. For me, I'd been on a plane a couple times in my life, and all of a sudden we're taking little Captain Jack, a 30-passenger plane bouncing into every SEC airport. We played in something like in front of 16,000 fans in Mississippi State in '89. It was at that point in time, it was the largest on-campus crowd in NCAA history. So some of those experiences were just tremendous. I remember throwing a 2-hit shutout against Florida State in Tallahassee my senior year. One of the games I remember the most. And but being able to be the first Florida team to ever get to the College World Series was very special. All of us guys that played in '88 really take a lot of pride in that, because the program has just taken off leaps and bounds ever since. They're just, of course, Coach Sullivan's taking it to a new level of going to the College World Series almost every year. But we take a lot of pride in being a part of that team.
We're speaking with Johnny Wiggs, head baseball coach at Santa Fe College. We got a Facebook Live question here brought to you by Melvin Law, where you matter most. I think I know the answer to this. Jeff wants to know, he thinks, is it Santa Fe a 4-year college now? It's still a junior college, right?
Almost every junior college in the state of Florida now is a 4-year, offers 4-year classes, and it has some 4-year majors.
Okay.
But all of us are still a junior college athletic program.
Gotcha.
So our guys still only play for us for 2 years. But yeah, we offer some 4-year classes. So that's why we went from Santa Fe Community College to Santa Fe College. We do offer a handful of bachelor's degrees.
Gotcha. So Johnny, after your Gator playing days, you kind of tried the Major League Baseball route, which to me is just almost impossible. I don't know how you guys even do it. But after that, you can talk a little bit about that experience, what it was like riding buses and doing all that kind of stuff. But then you got into coaching, and you've been coaching junior college baseball for a long time. And you coached at JU, I believe. I want to say you were coaching at Florida, but you've been a junior college coach pretty much your entire life. What's it like coaching junior college kids? Because you only get them 2 years. You're getting them ready to go either to the pros or go win games for a major college. And that's got to be difficult, in my opinion, when you ask these kids to come to campus and play for you, knowing you're only going to get them for 2 years.
Yeah, I always say junior college coaches have the toughest in terms of trying to develop team chemistry, camaraderie, all those kind of things in a hurry. You've got a lot of times, of course, in high school, guys play 4 years together, of course, at 4-year level. So we've got to do a good job of really getting them on board and playing as a team, those kind of things. You also have a hard time. When I first started 22 years ago, I used to think, well, I'm going to get this project over here, this guy that's really big and throws really hard, even though he can't come anywhere near the strike zone, but I'll fix him. Well, I learned by the time you fix them, they leave him. Yeah. So sometimes you take that project and you get him right where you want him, and then he's moving on. So I love getting guys who can help me right now. I mean, I want to be able to tweak them a little bit, give them something that can help them get a little bit better. But I always tell guys, if I sign you to a scholarship to come to Santa Fe, I believe you can win for us right now. I really believe you can help us if I don't touch you. But main thing we look for is great competitors and great teammates. If we can find those two things, we're going to win a lot of baseball games. In terms of my pro career, man, I had a lot of fun, man. I grew up believing I was going to do this. I grew up in Lakeland, Florida area, and I did everything with the Tigers there at Marchant Stadium in Lakeland. I was a bat boy. I threw batting practice for them at one point. I worked up in the sound room. I lived there. And so I knew what pro ball was like and really wanted to give it a shot. Played 5 years. I always say I played every level but the big leagues. every level in which you make the big paychecks. But had a great time, really enjoyed it. Got it my last year pitched against Derek Jeter. That's how old I am. He's already retired and been inducted to the Hall of Fame. But Jeter was a really good player, of course. But coaching junior college is great. You get to put your hands on everything.
Right.
You know, if you want to be an academic advisor, you're an academic advisor. You get to be the field crew. You do the laundry. You get to do a little bit of everything. So we take a lot of pride when we are successful. We take a lot of pride in it because our hands have been all over it.
We got a Facebook Live question or comment here brought to you by Melvin Law, where you matter most. Nathan wants you to tell the Yankee Stadium story.
Well, I guess he's talking about my goal, my third goal of my goals were play for the Gators, pitch in the College World Series, and pitch in Yankee Stadium. I think that's what he's referring to. And I'm going to get there. I'm still trying to get to Yankee Stadium and pitch in Yankee Stadium. I pitched in AAA for the Red Sox and really envisioned me getting called up, and I was going to go straight to Yankee Stadium. I was going to get to come out of the bullpen, have to get Don Mattingly out was going to be my goal. I was sort of a situational left-handed pitcher when I was in AAA. Last year or the year before, I went on this trip with the Detroit Tigers group, and they were going to let me throw batting practice to the Tigers in New York in Yankee Stadium to fulfill goal number 3. And the last minute, the Tigers bailed because of liability and some things like that. But I'm still working on it. I'm 53, but goal number 3 is close. If I have to run onto the field one game and I'll have a ball in my hand and throw a pitch from the mound before the security guards get to me, this guy's going to get goal number 3. I'm a goal-oriented guy, and if I can pitch for the Gate at 5'0", 100 nothing, if I can pitch for the Gators and pitch in the College World Series, I dang sure can pitch from Yankee Stadium. So I'm going to get there, Shane.
That's awesome. So Johnny, you've taken your Santa Fe team to the Junior College World Series. I don't know how many coaches have played in NCAA World Series and been coached in the Junior College World Series. I know Tim Walton won one as a player and now as a coach in softball. Sure. But that had to be awesome for you to take your team there.
It was, it was a lot of years ago. I came, 32 years ago or so that I went with the Gators to the College World Series. I've been fortunate to take my team to the Junior College World Series in 2009 and 2016. The experience in 2009, I said, was greater than my 88 World Series experience, just because I was so proud of my guys. And, you're a coach and you sort of take it all in a little bit better than you did when you were a player. I don't think I have one picture or video from my 88 World Series. I wasn't thinking. We didn't use, I guess we didn't have phones. That's what I'm saying. We didn't have phones. The 2009 experience, we finished national runner-ups at the Junior College World Series. Grand Junction, Colorado does an unbelievable job. We had 11,000 fans at the championship game, our last game of the year. So it was such a great experience. Our guys really enjoyed it, but really neat to be able to do both. And I told Grand Junction they do just as good a job as Omaha in terms of putting on a great show.
Johnny, in your coaching days, you coached a lot of really good players that have gone on to, play major college baseball. Talk a little bit about some of your guys that have gone and been major leaguers. That's got to be a proud moment for you. Yeah,
last year we had 3 guys in the major leagues. Keon Broxton playing on that national runner-up team. Keon was a tremendous athlete in high school, but didn't play a lot of baseball. He was a wide receiver on the Lakeland Dreadnoughts football team. And that took up most of his time. Bill Castle would eat up all of his time down there in Lakeland. And he played baseball for about 3 months a year. He played for us in 2009 and then hit a stride late in the year. I always say, if we don't go to the playoffs that year, Keon's a 25th round draft pick. We go to the state tournament and he goes crazy in the state tournament, hits a walk-off home run in game 1, makes diving plays, hits a couple more home runs, hits 500 for the tournament. I think he was MVP of the tournament. We go to the World Series. A lot of scouts follow us to the World Series after watching him he proceeds to hit 5 doubles and 5 home runs at the World Series. Ends up being a third round draft pick, signed for about $400,000 back in 2009, and worked his way through the minor leagues. It's been a tremendous defender, base runner. Hadn't hit for average enough, but Keon Broxton. And then we also have Malik Smith, who led the American League in stolen bases last year. He played for us in 2012. Good story. Was a 12th round pick. I think out of high school. Turned down pretty good money to come to Santa Fe for 1 year. End up being a 5th round pick. Got about doubled his money in terms of his sign-up bonus. Malik's has bounced around, been traded a couple of times, been with the Tampa Bay Rays, Atlanta Braves, and now with the Seattle Mariners. And then our third big leaguer is Ryan Yarborough, left-handed pitcher with the Tampa Bay Rays. Has won 27 games, I believe, 27 games in his first 2 years. Won 16 his rookie year, won 11 last year. But a left-handed pitcher. And I always tell guys, I tell this story to my guys. He was not good for us his freshman year here at Santa Fe. He had a 7 ERA, pitched mop-up innings for us. But what he did is he didn't quit. You know, he didn't say, hey, coach didn't pitch me enough, let me transfer. He just kept working. He worked his way into the starting rotation his sophomore year, ended up going to Old Dominion after that, and just kept developing, kept working. You know, the Keon Broxton was a freak athlete. Malik Smith and Ryan Yarborough are the two hardest workers that I've ever had. And that's the reason that both those guys are in the major leagues today. So it's really cool to see our guys be successful and play at a high level. We've also got guys all over the southeastern United States in terms of Division I schools. This past year, we had guys at the University of Florida, University of South Carolina, UCF, USF, JU, UNF, you name it, we have them there. So that's our goal, not only, of course, to win a lot of games and win championships here at Santa Fe, but help our guys get to the next level.
Yeah. Facebook Live here. It looks like one of your former players, Brian Gregory, says, brought to you by Melvin Law. I had a great time playing for Wiggs in 2009. So anyway,
oh, Lord. I thought he was going to tell some stories there. BG is a great character. He was the life of our 2009 team. He's a firefighter here in town. We appreciate all his great work he does. But, yeah, he's awesome. He can imitate me better than anybody in the world, I think. So he likes to, when we get that 2009 group together, which we try to do occasionally, he gets into full Wiggs routine, and it's pretty hysterical.
That's good stuff. Well, we only got a few more minutes here, Coach. I got to get your thoughts on McKeithen Stadium being torn down. You know, we were talking before the show. I couldn't imagine the Swamp being torn down. Just some of your thoughts. Obviously, you're sad about it, but we needed a new ballpark. It's going to be outstanding. But your thoughts on McKeithen going down?
Yeah, we were there when they built it. I do have a couple pictures. I've seen a couple pictures of us practicing in the fall of '87, and in the background, they're building McKeithen Stadium. So they built it. They were finishing it up as we were practicing. I remember us inter-squadding and hitting foul balls up toward the construction guys, wearing those guys out. So we have great fond memories, especially us 88 guys who saw it being built. And like I said, we issued it in well by winning the championship and won the World Series in our first year there. But it's a special place for us. But at the same time, I'm excited for Coach O'Sullivan and his staff and his players to get to walk into that grand place down the road. I've just driven by it. I'm hoping I get a tour here eventually, but it looks tremendous. But yeah, we have great fond memories. We really helped establish the program even more so in '88 by our success. The crowds began to start getting bigger after '88. It sort of put baseball a little bit more on the map there on campus. You know, of course, football and basketball have always been, of course, the bigger sports, but we love that we brought Florida baseball a little bit more notoriety in '88. And McKeithen Stadium continued to get bigger. Every time I would go back, they'd keep adding on to it. The press box would get a little bit bigger, those kind of things. But it will always be a special place. And I know they're going to put some football buildings and those kind of things on top of it. But hey, when I look over there, I'll still see McKeithen Stadium, that's for sure.
No doubt. So I want to get your, I mean, obviously Kevin O'Sullivan's done a tremendous job. I mean, as you mentioned, it seems like it's a foregone conclusion they're going to be in Omaha every year. Do you guys ever just talk baseball? I mean, does he lean on you and say, hey man, have you seen this player? Is he a guy that we should bring into our program?
Yeah, occasionally, they don't have to get as many junior college players as they did in the past.
Right.
Back in the past, there'd be one or two guys from Santa Fe that go to Florida almost every year. Even if it was a supplemental type guy, a guy to add some depth to the bench, those kind of things. The thing that Kevin O'Sullivan has done is and this is the reason he was hired, I think first and foremost, is he's a great recruiter. And that's how he changed the landscape is he became just an unbelievable recruiter, or it was an unbelievable recruiter, and he dominated the competition. Most head coaches at his level have recruiting coordinators and assistant coaches, and the coach just sends them out. Well, Sully's on the road constantly. He's the lead recruiter because he knows how important it is. He's dominating. Yes, we do talk, especially when he is talking about a junior college guy and those kind of things, maybe somebody that I saw. But he's been very helpful to me. He's more helpful to me than I am to him in the fact that he'll send me some guys. Occasionally he'll pick up the phone and say, hey, we don't have room for this guy. Hey, can you use this position? Those kind of things. We've picked up at least one guy. They had to shed some guys this year. It was a tough, they had a tough situation. I mean, they didn't lose anybody basically, and they had a recruiting class of about 16 guys coming in. So they had to shed some of their recruits. They had to shed a couple guys, and they had to do that all across the country. So he wasn't the only one. And I know how tough that was for him. I talked to him. I talked to Craig Bell, one of his assistants, and it was really tough for those guys to let guys go. But they did it for the right reasons, because those guys, if they would have gone over there, they'd had 50 guys over there this fall, and none of them would have gotten to play. Yeah. So we ended up getting one of the pitchers they had signed to go. We're trying to get one more local kid. Hopefully that works out for us. But he's been real helpful. He's a tremendous coach, a tremendous recruiter, and done a super job for the University of Florida. They did a great job. I think it was Jeremy's last job of tying him up to a long-term contract before Jeremy left. Jeremy was always super to me. Jeremy was an assistant athletic director when I played, and he seemed like the guy that always jumped on Captain Jack and took the road trips with us. So known Jeremy for a long time. He's written letters of recommendation for me over the years. The University of Florida is lucky to have Jeremy, and definitely lucky to have Kevin O'Sullivan now as the baseball coach.
No doubt. Well, Santa Fe is lucky to have Johnny Wiggs as their baseball coach, and we could talk for a long time. We're going to have you back on here and talk about your program. Obviously, you missed that on a year and all that stuff, but we're running out of time here, Coach. And I want to thank you for joining us today. We had a lot of people listening and wanted to hear from Johnny Wiggs. You and your family be safe, and hopefully we'll be playing baseball in the spring.
Yes, I hope so. Thanks again, Shane. We'll do it anytime. You let me know.
Yes, sir. That's Johnny Wiggs, head coach at Santa Fe College. Folks, make sure you tune in next week. We got a great lineup for you. We're going to kick it off with Mick Hubert, Caleb Sturgis, Dexter McNabb, Mike White, and Brad Wilkerson. So make sure you tune in next week. You go follow and like us. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Today's show is a wrap and is brought to you by The Wrap Spot. Be safe out there, folks. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Take care.